Okay, welcome. In this video, I am going to talk specifically about a concept called tests for divisibility. Now, a lot of people think divisibility, that's easy. We're talking about dividing numbers, which is very true. However, when we're talking about tests for divisibility, we are talking about dividing numbers perfectly, meaning there's no remainders, decimals, fractions, or anything of the kind. Tests of divisibility, we have 7 major tests that we like to use. Okay? Now, beyond these 7 major tests, you would have to say use a calculator or another means in order to determine divisibility of numbers, but these 7 tests are the easy, fast checks for divisibility that we have. The first one is talking about 2. Okay, so is something divisible by 2? Well, to know that, we need to know the definition. So the definition here means we're talking about even numbers. So even numbers, no matter what the number, will divide by 2 nicely. For example, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. All those even numbers will divide nicely. The next one we have is 5. Okay? 5 will divide nicely into any number where the ones digit is a 0 or a 5. If anything else occurs with your number, then 5 will not divide nicely into it. Our third rule talks about 10, divisible by 10. Here we are talking about any number whose ones digit is a 0. And if that happens, then that number is divisible by 10. Now, those were the easy ones. Some of the more oddball ones are these next 4. So the first one we have is what about numbers divisible by 3? To find out if a number is divisible by 3, all you have to do is take that number, add up its digits, and if that value is something divisible by 3, then that whole number was divisible by 3. Okay? Now, 4 is a very odd definition. Divisible by 4 says that whatever number you have, you want to look at the last 2 digits. So we're talking about the 1s and the 10s. When you look at those last 2 digits, look at them as a number itself. If that specific number is divisible by 4, then the whole number you have is divisible by 4. Now, 6 and 9 are similar with slight differences. When we're talking about divisible by 6, in order to be divisible by 6, it means that whatever number you had to first be divisible by 2 and then also be divisible by 3. So as long as those 2 rules qualify or pass, then whatever number you had is divisible by 6. If either one of those 2 or 3 fail, then your number is not divisible by 6. Now, when we're talking about 9, we're talking about summing all of your digits together, and if whatever that sum is divisible by 9, then your whole number is divisible by 9. Now, here's a really cool thing to think about. If we look at the number 9, well, 3 goes into 9 nicely. Therefore, any number that is divisible by 9 will also be divisible by 3. Okay, that's just kind of food for thought. So I've got just a couple quick examples here to kind of talk about the divisibility rules so you can see them in action. So first we have determine if 84 is divisible by 3. So in order to do that means first we need to know the rule. So we need to know your rule for what 3 divides. The rule for divisibility by 3 says that you need to have the sum of the digits divide by 3 nicely. Okay? So I have the number 84. So I have to look at them as individual digits. So the first thing I need to do is I need to do 8 plus 4. Well, 8 plus 4 gives me 12. So the question that I have to ask is 12 divisible by 3? In this case, the answer is yes. Therefore, 84 is also divisible by 3. So, since 12 is divisible by 3, then, by definition, 84 is also divisible by 3. Okay. So when you're talking about divisibility tests, we are talking more about drawing conclusions than doing actual mathematics. Okay, the math that you're doing here is very small. It's just to simply applying the rule and applying it correctly. Okay. Now, the next one we want to look up is the question that says, make up any 3-digit numbers that are divisible by the following: 2, 3, and 5. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to look at what are the rules I have to follow. So I need to know my rules. So when I'm talking about 2, I am talking about even numbers. When I am talking about 3, I am talking about the sum of my digits is divisible by 3. And when I am talking about 5, I am talking about the number ends in 0 or 5. So specifically, we're talking about the ones place. Okay, those are the rules I have to follow. So based on that, any number would satisfy this question. So my number has to be even, the sum of the digits must be divisible by 3, and it must end in a 0 or a 5. So the first time that I looked at this problem, the first thing that came to mind, to be honest, was my husband. Now, my husband on occasion likes to play with video games, and right now some of his most exciting games are coming from the Xbox. So what does that have to do with this? Well, the Xbox has a very cool version called an Xbox 360. Okay? Well, 360, that's a 3-digit number. And so, look and see if it passes your test. Is 360 even? Yes. So therefore, 360 is even, which means, yes, it's divides 2. Now, sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So, sum of the digits says 3 plus 6 plus 0, Well, 3 plus 6 is 9, plus 0 is 9. And yes, this is divisible by 3. Thus, we satisfy not only the 2 rule, but the 3 rule. Now, the last rule says it has to end in 0 or 5. And we're talking about the ones place. So what we're actually talking about is we are talking about this digit right here. And yes, it is a 0. So that passes the 5 test. Therefore, we have passed the whole divisibility test. And 360 would be our answer. So for a problem like this, I challenge you to have fun and see how many other 3-digit numbers you can find that are also divisible by 2, 3, and 5. Now the last one is considered to be fun, and one that through experience I know shows up on a lot of tests. And so we're asking you in this question to take the following digit and run every divisibility test that we talked about on that specific number. And you are asked to state which tests work and which tests don't. So my number is 2,916. So the first thing I have to do is I have to do divisible by 2. Divisible by 2 again says, is it even? Well, an even number says we're looking at the last digit. My last digit is a 6, so this is yes, it is even, so we pass the 2 test. Now we need to look at divisible by 3. Divisible by 3 says I need to sum my digits together. So this is 2 plus 9 plus 1 plus 6. So when we're looking at this, we have 2 plus 9, so that's 11, plus 1 makes 12, plus 6 makes 18. So yes, this works because 18 is divisible by 3. To do divisible by 4 says we need to look at the last 2 digits. So my last 2 digits are 16. And then the question is 16 divisible by 4? Well, yes it is. Therefore, since 16 is divisible by 4, we pass the by 4 test. Then we have divisible by 5. Well, in this case, we have no. And the reason for that is because the digit does not end in 0 or 5. When we're checking by 6, what we're looking for is, did you pass divisible by 2 and by 3? Well, in this case, yes, we did. We passed them both. Therefore, we are also divisible by 6. When we look at divisible by 9, again, this says we need to sum the digits. Well, we already did that. 2 plus 9 plus 1 plus 6 gives me 18, which is divisible by 9. Therefore, it works. And then our last one is divisible by 10. And in this case, we have no. The reason for it is because the digit does not end in a 0. Okay. So if I'm looking for the ones that actually passed, I have divisible by 2, divisible by 3, divisible by 4, divisible by 6, and divisible by 9. Okay? So, that's all you need to know, kind of in general, about tests for divisibility. And so remember, math is bananas. So please keep smiling, ask tons of questions, make sure you have lots of fun with your math, and I'll see you next time.